Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here the Watchman. Here we are, 1 week away from arriving in Dallas, Texas, actually Grapevine, Texas, at the Hilton DFW Hotel for the Remnant Warrior Conference. And today's guest is a veteran of Hear the Watchman. I think he's been to every Hear the Watchman, if I can remember. There he is, right back up there. You all know him, L.A. Marzulli. L.A., thanks for joining us.
Hey, Mike, great to be here. Looking forward to next weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some warm weather. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to getting up in the morning and it's not 10 degrees, so
There you go.
we're looking forward to getting there. LA, a lot going on right now. And we've been talking about it here on the show with some of the other speakers. Of course, it's the coronavirus. I'm almost I'm not sure I'm necessarily afraid of getting the coronavirus. I think I'm afraid of getting sick of talking about it. But it is something that's on the in the hearts and minds of everybody in our country right now. What do you see in this whole thing? And let's try and turn it over to a biblical sense if we can. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, or some of it anyway, is legitimate on some level. But having not been in the CDC, and where's Sharon Gilbert? She could probably weigh in on it. I mean, I've heard everything that this is the coming pandemic, and this thing is just going to explode. To other stuff that, hey, it's like more people this year have died from the just from a normal flu than this thing. So, I mean, the media is definitely all over it. I know that a friend of mine flies for Delta, Matt Brunet, and Matt said that basically in Australia he does a flight pretty much once a week. They fly to Sydney and then they bivouac for a day and they come back. That's what they do, and he's done it for years. This one particular route, and Australia has completely closed all airplanes coming out of China, from what I understand. So we hear about lockdowns in Italy where towns are completely isolated now, and people uh, getting food on the street about that. And this is why, regardless of whether this is real or not, this is why it's important to have a stash of food and water, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we had a huge stash in our root cellar, but it all got burned out. I mean, the fire door burnt. There was nothing left. I mean, so everything got smoke damaged, and that was the end of it. So, kind of lesson learned that even with a fire door and a fire like that, everything we had to throw out everything, which is a couple of $1,000s worth of food, which really el succo. But what we will replenish once we move back, we'll definitely get that done. Meanwhile, we're in Oklahoma. We've got a small stash of stuff set aside. But the bottom line, Mike, is that um, Jesus warns us, and this is what my talk will be about. Basically, the days of chaos. We are in, and I already actually did this at Hear the Watchman several years ago, but this will be an updated version of it because people need to be reminded. I mean, I've written a whole book on it, Days of Chaos. We did a Watchers DVD, Days of Chaos, and we'll be bringing all that down because it's incredibly apropos. Just because the book is, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old now, whatever it is, it's incredibly apropos. And what I'll do is I'll take those slides and of course rework them, which is what I'm doing now. Rework the slides, bring everything current. But what's amazing is everything is very apropos at this moment. And of course, it reflects the words of Jesus. The wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, troublesome times, people fainting from fear from what is coming upon the earth. So when we take all this and we put it into the cosmic end time blender, and we kind of take a sip of that, what we see, what we're tasting is exactly what is happening on the planet right now, even as I speak. For instance, I was one of the few, patting myself on the back here, but I was one of the few guys that ever talked about the Strait of Hormuz in Iran. Now, the Iranians have backed way down. There's a new sheriff in town, unlike Obama, who placated them with, billions of dollars. Trump basically cut Soleimani in half. Said, we're not doing this. Hold on. A little sneeze action here. In other words, when they hit the embassy, when they hit the embassy in Iraq, our response was swift and deadly. You guys want to play footsie with us? We're not doing this. It's a different guy here. We're going to take out your number two guy, and they did. And the missile that hit him basically, I mean, eviscerated him, literally. It was just unbelievable. I don't wish that on anybody. But the bottom line was when they started saber rattling back, Trump just said, it's either 51 or 52 hostages under Jimmy Carter. I met Jimmy Carter, and we've got 51 or 52 targets already listed. If you want to play footsie with us, we got 52 targets, which we'll go for right now. And they immediately backed down because over there, they only understand one thing, and that's force. That's it. And Obama placated them. Jimmy Carter didn't know how to handle them. A little peanut farmer, and interest rates were 22%. And Obama, in my opinion, basically kowtowed to the whole Islamic deal, and worst president ever, and I believe he weaponized the IRS against conservatives like myself, because when he was president, we were being audited for 3 years in a row, 13, 14, and 15. Trump gets elected. Pretty much it all goes away. Not all of it, but most of it went away. And that's incredible. I know the same thing happened to Russ Dizdar. Pastor Paul Begley talked about the list. Remember, he was contacted under the Obama administration. And there was a list of names, of which I was on that list, along with people like Russ Dizdar and others. So, that's legit. We were being watched. And, the bottom line is they don't like our voices. You can't have free speech. And thank God Trump is president. A lot of people don't like him. Well, what are all alternatives? You look at the Democratic Party, and it's absolute nonsense. And in fact, I wrote a blog a couple of days ago. What is a communist, a wannabe Native American, a guy who's married to another guy, and a billionaire have in common? They're all running for president. I mean, it's laughable. It's absolutely, utterly laughable to think that these people are going to lead our nation when every one of them have never, to the best of my knowledge, has ever had a job in the private sector, has no idea how the economy works, how anything works. I mean, Elizabeth Warren has lied her way through life. I mean, that's what she's done. Pete Buttigieg is married to a gay guy and another gay guy, and he's going to lecture us on what he's gotten closer to God because of his marriage. Well, that may be. But, everything that you stand for is frankly anti-biblical. Joe Biden doesn't remember what state he's in, and it's gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. And Bernie Sanders is an out-and-out communist who quotes Fidel Castro over Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Need I say more? No. So, my vote is already cast for our president. He's done remarkable things for this country. In fact, I wrote a blog a few weeks ago after the State of the Union address when Pelosi said that he was being medicated. No, Nancy, this guy has been through the ringer. Anybody else would have folded years ago, literally years ago. They would have said, "Why put my family and myself through this grief? See, I'll step down. You guys have fun with the rest of the country." But he withstood it, which is absolutely unbelievable when you think about it. And we know that there is a deep state. I love these pundits from a deep state trying to tell us that there is no deep state. Meanwhile, the deep state is alive and well. We know the illegal FISA warrants. We know and I'm going to touch about all this in my presentation. But circling back to Iran, Iran has one move, and that's to close the Strait of Hormuz. And I blogged about that, and I'll talk about that here at the Watchman, because what did they do? They immediately bristled and, we'll close the Strait of Hormuz and stop the oil. You know what? You guys do that, and we're going to hit you with everything. Yeah. And there'll be a regime change, and the people of Iran can finally get free.
It's interesting you bring up the deep state. One of your fellow speakers at the conference is Kevin Shipp, so a former CIA insider and whistleblower who's going to be talking about exactly what the deep state means and what its effects are on us. Your topic, LA, your complete topic is Days of Chaos, the birth pains, what Jesus warned us of is happening now. And what a great timely topic that is, because we are truly seeing some biblical things unfold in front of us, aren't we?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. If these aren't the birth pangs, then I don't know what they are. and we've been in this kind of like this travail, if I can use that word, for well over a decade. I would say 9/11 certainly changed things, but it's things have. And I'll ask this at your conference at Hear the Watchman: how many people in the audience think that we're better off now than what we were, let's say, 25 years ago? Usually, not a hand goes up, even under Trump, because they realize that things are just the entire landscape, the prophetic landscape, is so charged and in such disarray, as it were. We start going around globally. I mean, what's not talked about in the United States is that South America is imploding. South America is imploding because of the socialistic, borderline communist ideology by Maduro and others of his ilk south of the border. And what that's done, over 3 million people have left that country. They've just completely left it. They're gone, and they're taxing the economies of Peru and Bolivia and Ecuador and Colombia, and also Brazil. So Venezuela used to be, and you can make a strong argument that it was the apple of the eye of South America. Very, very prosperous country, and in less than 30 years, from Chavez to Maduro, there's nothing left of the country. I mean, they've completely ruined it. Socialism doesn't work, and for our Democratic colleague there, Bernie Sanders, to actually quote Fidel Castro, where he says, he raised the literacy rate in Cuba. Well, maybe he did that, but there wasn't much to raise. Right. 2 points, 3 points, 5 points, and look how many people he killed and murdered. Yeah. I'll pass. Well,
at least they could read before they were shot. I mean, it's amazing. Exactly. It's amazing, LA. And the thing is, the youth of America, and I don't want to pick on them, but I'm going to. The youth of America today buys into the whole socialism. They think that capitalism is the problem, socialism is the answer. It certainly wasn't for Venezuela, one of the richest countries in the world, more oil, minerals, precious gems, metals, and it's like you said, it's in ruin. It's just a shell now of a country, and that's what we look for. But we try to at the conference all the time bring it back to God, and that God is the answer. He is the one who's in charge here. What would you say if someone came up to you at the conference and said, "LA, what do I need to do to prepare to serve God in these difficult times?"
Well, I mean, the first thing, and I'm echoing Chuck Missler here, but I mean, the very first thing a person needs to do is make a decision about Christ in their life. Who are they gonna side with? Who are they gonna follow? And in my opinion, it's without question. I dedicated my life 40 years ago, came across the line. My life's never been the same. But that's the vital decision. As a human being, and I'll talk about this, all human beings are people call it the sin nature. I call it the code of the dragon, because that's what it is. It's the dragon DNA that we're imbued with, that we sided with him way back in the garden, which necessitated someone to come and take back that kingdom. And of course, that someone was in the person of Jesus, the Messiah, Jesus, the anointed one, 2,000 years ago. By his stripes, we are healed, not only from the sin code, but also from, I believe, our disease and our sin nature. And we become more like him on a daily basis, providing that we walk with him. So the first thing, the step number one, is to make that decision. Are you going to side with the dragon, or are you going to side with the Lord? That's number one. And then from there, then you have to see where the Lord would place you and what he's going to do in your life. But that decision is paramount. It's just absolutely paramount in one person's life, especially in the troublesome times that we see ourselves in right now.
Yeah, amen. Amen to that, LA. Now listen, folks, this is the 5th year anniversary of Hear the Watchman in Dallas, Texas. If you can't make it out there, you can hear LA and all the other speakers. Sharon Gilbert, who's going to be talking about the coronavirus. She's a microbiologist as well as a well known Skywatch TV host. We have Kevin Shipp, we have Pastor Paul Begley, Dr. Michael Lake, Josh Tolley, Paul McGuire. I mean, it's going to be a very powerful and moving conference. There's about 20 seats left if you're in the local Dallas area, or avail yourself of the on demand streaming. You get it for 3 months, you'll have plenty of time to study it. If you're afraid to travel, whatever, avail yourself of that. Just go to hearthewatchmen.com. Use the promo code LA20. That'll get you 20% off the purchase price of that streaming and on demand, which is only $39, by the way, for 3 months. That's like a little over $10 a month. You spend that at Starbucks, you can afford to get the on demand. It's that important. And LA, it's funny because you talked a little bit about this earlier in our conversation. People always come up to me and say, Mike, what were you thinking when you started Hear the Watchman? And the point is, I wasn't thinking, I was listening. And we need to listen nowadays. If I was thinking, I'm sure I wouldn't have done it. But, I was listening, and God called upon Jeannie and I to gather his people. And so we've been trudging down the road here now for 5 years, and we're excited to be back in Dallas to celebrate that 5th year anniversary. It's actually been 6 years. It took a year to plan the first one. And we've learned a lot. We've come a long way, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been great, and I think here the Watchman is absolutely needed in the tenuous, tumultuous, unprecedented times that we find ourselves living in. And thank God you guys do what you do, and it's a real honor to be part of it.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing there. Again, folks, go to hearthewatchmen.com. Get that on demand. You can't miss it. People are saying, how do I get the on demand? All you have to do is go to the webpage. It's in huge bold letters right at the top. Just click on it, get yourself set up, sit back, and be enlightened and enriched by everything that goes on at the conference. LA, thank you so much for being a part of this show, and we'll see you next week in Grapevine, Texas.
Got it, Mike. Do it. Take care, bro.
Thank you. Well, folks, as we always say here on the Watchman's Report, remember, there's nothing that you can't do with Jesus in your heart, except nothing at all. Get out there, get busy, be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. We'll see you next time here on the Watchman's Report.